Hi, welcome to my channel Christian Faith and Fiction. My name's Lou. Today we're going to look at some new Christian fiction books that are coming out in February 2025. These are books that I could find that are listed as Christian fiction on Amazon, or I think they might be Christian fiction books. There are various genres. I've split them up into different genres for you, so you can skip to the ones that are most interesting to you. I, as always, will say I haven't read these books, so I can't tell you what the content was like and if there might be anything problematic in there, but this is the ones that I could find that are listed as Christian fiction. So let's take a look at the mystery and suspense genre. Secrets Between the Shelves by Cynthia, Hickey, Linda Baten Johnson, Teresa, Ives, Lilly and Marilyn Turk releases on the 1st of February and is published by Barber Fiction. The mysteries enjoyed in books come to life, threatening four businesses. Amber's new bookshop and tea room draws rare book collectors, but when one ends up dead in the mystery section, the shop's future is questionable. Lily's pirate-themed bookshop fits right into Harbour Inn, Maine, but she never expected to find a young pirate dead on her shop's floor. Abby opens Secret Passages bookshop in a Wyoming mountain town, not realizing her historic building held a real secret passage and a missing teenager. Lauren moves to Florida and frequents the seaside books and reading room, where she is strangely attracted to the owner, who is suspected of killing his wife. Sabotage at Cedar Creek by Janice Thompson releases on the 1st of February and is published by Barber Fiction. Who would set the new B&B ablaze? Breathe in the nostalgia of everything old red truck in Book 2 of this cozy mystery series. In Maybank, Texas, the Hadley family's new antique business is open and running well, with Tilly the red antique truck as its mascot. Raylan Hadley enjoys driving Grandpa's truck around as she seeks out antiques for her family store. Raylan is excited that her friend Tasha will soon open a new bed and breakfast inn to accommodate the area's growing tourism, but a fire threatens to spoil all Tasha has worked for. Raylan immediately gets to work sleuthing out who could be behind such an act of sabotage. Could it be the nearby resort owner, the daughter of the house's former owner, a neighbour, or a squatter who had been living in the house before renovations? Raylan is determined to solve the mystery for her friend. Guilty Until Innocent by Robert Whitlow releases on the 4th of February and is published by Thomas Nelson. Justice has been served unless the accused is innocent. In this gripping legal drama, Whitlow expertly weaves themes of grace, faith, and the law with a plot that is sure to keep you guessing until the end. Life in prison is often a nightmare, but Joe Moore believes he is just where God intends him to be. 25 years ago, while high on meth, he makes one terrible mistake after another, culminating in the brutal murder of a young influential couple. Today, Joe is a radically different person, thriving in his role as a ministry leader and role model to his fellow inmates. After being fired from 2 previous law firms, young lawyer Ryan Clark and his wife Paige have settled into a small North Carolina town. Hired by a distant relative, Ryan is committed to connecting with the right clients and handling the mundane tasks, while his cousin Tom takes on the high-profile cases. But when critical health issues land Tom in the hospital, Ryan is forced to take the helm at the law firm, just in time for the town's biggest case in history to be reopened. Joe Moore's niece has been doing some digging and, convinced that her incarcerated uncle is innocent, insists that Ryan relaunch the investigation immediately. After Ryan meets with Joe, both men receive threats that put their own lives as well as the lives of those around them in danger. It appears that together they've pulled back a dark curtain that hides a deeper evil than anyone in town suspects exists. Now they must determine if continuing with the case is worth the risk, and if the cost of proving one man's innocence is too great when the lives of so many others would be placed in mortal danger. Storm Warning by Elizabeth Goddard releases on the 18th of February and is published by Ravel. Haunted by a half-forgotten past, former Army photographer Remy Grant is working at an isolated storm-watching lodge on the rocky Washington coast when she receives a mysterious puzzle piece. The puzzle piece may be the catalyst to unlock a disturbing incident she struggles to remember, the event that sent her into hiding. But with heavy storms rolling in, she has to focus on the present, not get caught up in the past. When a mysterious man at the lodge saves her life twice, Remy becomes suspicious and confronts him. After a catastrophic event in his own life, former military pilot Hawk Beckett is trying to get some perspective at the suggestion of his former commanding officer. Faced with the fiercest storm to hit the coast in a decade, Remy and Hawk are forced into survival mode. But they're not alone at the lodge. Someone doesn't want Remy to remember what happened, and they will stop at nothing to see her dead. Searching for Justice by Connie Queen releases on the 25th of February and is published by Love Inspired Suspense. A cold case reopened, a canine in pursuit of the truth. When a teen goes missing from the same place where her own foster sister disappeared, canine handler Bryn Taylor is on the case until she's caught in a lethal trap. Someone doesn't want her or her St. Bernard, Fergie, snooping around, and they're willing to kill to keep their secrets. Saved by rancher Jace Jackson, Bryn reluctantly accepts the single father's help, solving both cases, but they're under fire every dangerous step of the way, and eluding this killer may be as impossible as outrunning Bryn's past. Hiding the Witness by Deena Alexander releases on the 25th of February and is published by Love Inspired Suspense. Rescuing a child makes her a killer's target. Racing into a burning cabin to search for survivors, firefighter Diana Cameron stumbles upon an unconscious child and two bodies with bullet wounds. When a sniper targets their narrow escape, Diana has no choice but to team up with bodyguard Chase Mitchell to keep the little girl safe. Uncovering the identity of the murder victims is the only way to find the killer, but as they're chased by gunmen into the mountain wilderness, can they protect a tiny witness from the unknown when the truth is more sinister than they imagined? Wyoming Ranch Sabotage by Kellie VanHorn releases on the 25th of February and is published by Love Inspired Suspense. With her ranch under attack, can she trust him to defend her? Desperate to rescue her horses from a suspicious fire, rancher Sadie Madsen suddenly finds herself trapped inside the burning barn instead. She's saved by the one man she never wanted to see again, her ex-fiancé Jesse Taylor. Unable to ignore the string of recent accidents on her property, Sadie reluctantly accepts the park ranger's help, but as they investigate and discover family secrets, the attacks escalate. Dangerous killers want Sadie's land, and luring the culprits into the open is their only hope of escaping a deadly conspiracy. Lethal Reunion by Lacey Baker releases on the 25th of February and is published by Love Inspired Suspense. Will a class reunion hold the answers to her sister's cold case murder? The last thing Hallie Jefferson expects is to receive a chilling threat at her high school reunion or the gunshot that follows. It's been 15 years since her sister's unsolved homicide, and now her twin's killer is back. They want something from Hallie, and they'll stop at nothing to get it. The only thing standing between her and certain death is her former high school sweetheart, Sheriff Kyle Briscoe. Can Hallie and Kyle outwit a ruthless murderer and uncover the truth before they're silenced for good? A Dangerous Past by Susan G. Heino releases on the 25th of February and is published by Love Inspired Suspense. Tracking down a killer and healing old wounds. When police officer and chaplain Gabe Elliott hears a disturbing deathbed confession, he turns to the one person who can help, the fiancé he left behind 10 years ago. As the small town's archivist, Brynna Jensen has the skills to investigate the 50-year-old murder, and she's determined to find out whether her best friend's dying grandfather is responsible for covering up a heinous crime. But between break-ins and threats, a shadowy figure pursues them. If Brynna and Gabe want to claim their second chance at love, they'll have to survive. Train to Protect by Terri Reid releases on the 25th of February and is published by Love Inspired Suspense. Protecting a witness could be a deadly mission for this canine team. Canine officer Taryn McGregor never imagined that a cartel would find its way to Texas's South Padre Island or target his best friend's sister. But when Julia Hamilton witnesses and prevents the kidnapping of a teen girl, Taryn knows that trouble is soon to follow. Because Julia didn't just protect the girl, she saw the abductor's face. Now she's marked for murder, and it's up to Taryn and his canine partner to keep Julia safe from the human traffickers in pursuit, even if it means putting themselves in the line of fire. In historical fiction, Whispers of Fortune by Mary Connealy releases on the 4th of February and is published by Bethany House. In a land of golden grit, can two hearts uncover the true treasure? In 1875 California, Brody Mackenzie arrives at the Two Hearts Ranch on a mission to find his runaway brothers, worried they may have fallen into harm. Instead, he discovers them thriving at the ranch's school and orphanage under the care of Ellie Hart, a woman with a heart as resilient as the land she calls home. His options limited, Brody reluctantly takes on the role of ranch doctor, and he forms an unexpected bond with Ellie, who's kept a steady eye on Brody's two rapscallion brothers. When the boys show him a mysterious journal that has been guiding their travels and may hold the key to a lost treasure, Brody and Ellie are captivated by the possibility of a thrilling adventure. With winter approaching and his brothers threatening to bolt again, Brody and Ellie race against time to decipher cryptic clues and unearth the hidden fortune, but along the way old adversaries resurface, threatening their newfound affection and the safety of those at the ranch. Midnight on the Scottish Shore by Sarah Sundin releases on the 4th of February and is published by Ravel. In a time of war, danger lurks beneath the water and in the depths of the human heart. As the German war machine devours the Netherlands, the only way Silla van der Zee can survive the occupation is to do the unthinkable, train to become a spy for the Nazis. Once dispatched to Britain, she plans to abandon her mission and instead aid the Allies. But her scheme is thwarted when naval officer Lieutenant Lachlan Mackenzie finds her along the Scottish shore and turns her in to be executed. Yet perhaps she is more useful alive than dead. British intelligence employs her to radio misleading messages to Germany from the lighthouse at Dunnet Head in Scotland. Messages filled with naval intelligence Lachlan must provide. If the war is to be won, Lachlan and Silla must work together. But how can he trust a woman who arrived on his shores as a tool of the enemy, a woman certain to betray both him and the Allied cause? As Sure as the Sea by Jamie Ogle releases on the 11th of February and is published by Tyndale. Once she denied everything she believed in, now she'd give anything to choose differently. But in the shadow of the Roman Empire's persecution and the shame of her past, she fears that what she wants most will be forever out of reach. Eastern Roman Empire AD 310, in the shadow of Emperor Diocletian's anti-Christian edicts, Demetria makes a meagre living harvesting coral and pearls for a merchant who turns a blind eye to her faith. By night Demi goes upriver with her brother, Theseus, to obtain provisions for fellow believers in the port city of Myra, while willing to risk her own life to ensure others are safe and fed. Demi lives with a desperate fear for those she loves and carries secret shame over her greatest failure. When Theseus is injured in a diving accident, all seems lost until a stranger named Nicholas appears on the beach and offers help. Arriving in a sinking boat, Nicholas is burdened by guilt over his older brother's tragic death. Though the wealth he inherited from a prosperous shipping business now rests at the bottom of the sea, as the new pastor of Myra, he is determined to recover it and use it for good. As the violence against Christians increases, Demi helps Nicholas retrieve his lost fortune and distribute it to those in dire need. Despite wondering if she can ever be worthy, Demi is drawn to Nicholas and longs to trust in his belief that freedom can be found in forgiveness. Then one terrifying night, everything changes as the Roman Empire's fury rains down. Demi has no other choice but to decide if she has the courage to do what she once failed to, and if the faith she calls her own is sure enough to carry her. The Scarlet Ribbon by Naomi Stevens releases on the 17th of February and is published by Whitefire Publishing. As the Revolutionary War unfurls around her, Rebecca Stanton is abandoned by the man who once claimed to love her. Shunned by her father and forced to give up her child, she finds herself thrust into prostitution at the local boarding house. When the British seize control of the nearby fort, she gives little thought to the officers who frequent the boarding house. Men are men regardless of the colour of their uniform, or so she believes. But then a young man, a patriot spy named Benjamin Renshaw, stumbles upon her in the darkness, and she saves him from a group of pursuing redcoats. With an attack on the fort brewing in the background, and the father of her child returned to serve with the British, Rebecca is torn between old dreams and new hope, struggling all the while to find peace and forgiveness in a place of rising conflict. His Perfect Bride by Jody Hedlund releases on the 18th of February and is published by Sunrise Publishing. This is Brideship's New Voyages Book 3. Sage Rhodes is eager to escape Manchester, England, and leave behind the pain of a broken engagement. When she's offered the job as the lady's maid to Augusta Lennox, who is travelling to Vancouver Island to visit her brother, Sage happily accepts the position. Not so long ago, brilliant engineer Jackson Lennox faced a terrible tragedy during the building of a suspension bridge in the Fraser River Valley and becomes a recluse in his fine home in Victoria. When his sister and her beautiful lady's maid arrive on his doorstep, he's reluctant to welcome the visitors. Organised and efficient, Sage starts to bring order not only to Jackson's home, but also to his life. Even though at first they clash, the attraction between the beauty and the beast is undeniable. Still, they do their best to ignore it, but when Augusta goes missing and they're thrust into a dangerous adventure together, circumstances require them to pretend they're married. Will the charade and their forced proximity change their hearts or ruin them both forever? The Dreams We Knew by Rachel Scott McDaniel releases on the 25th of February and is published by Craigle. Can two opposites come together to solve the murder of a rising star? In the glitz and glam of New York City's elite circles, Delvina Salvestano Klein walks a delicate line between her privileged upbringing and her murky past. Adopted into wealth and opulence, she contends with the legacy of her birth father, a notorious crime boss. In an act of defiance, Delvina sheds the smothering label of society's misfit by carving her own path as a private investigator. When a promising young fashion model is found dead, Delvina is hired to unmask the killer lurking behind the city's shimmering facade. She reluctantly teams up with Detective Kent Brisbane, the man she once loved, who knows a secret that could shatter her carefully crafted persona. As they plunge deep into the shadows of New York's underbelly, they discover the stakes are higher than they'd thought. Amidst glittering parties and whispered secrets, the duo races against time to uncover the truth. In biblical fiction, Dawn of Grace by Jill Eileen Smith releases on the 18th of February and is published by Revell. She's been pulled up from the depths of despair, but what happens when the hope she has found slips from her grasp? From her earliest days, Mary Magdalene has known fear and loss at a level so deep she has no hope of surfacing. Bound to the demons within her and incapable of freeing herself, Mary walks in shadow, until one day she encounters a healer, a rabbi who is radically different from the religious leaders and family members who could do nothing to help her. One touch from Jesus and Mary is never the same. Now Mary's one mission in life is to serve the one who freed her. She is determined never to leave his side, fearing that if she loses him, she'll return to her former bondage. Even when the unthinkable happens, and her saviour is arrested and sentenced to execution, she cannot abandon him, as so many others did. Let her be buried in his tomb, for she cannot live without him. On the brink of despair, Mary is about to discover that while the life of faith is never perfect, perfect love casts out fear, and Jesus makes all things new. In contemporary romance, The Nature of Love by Toni Shiloh releases on the 4th of February and is published by Bethany House. A doctor feeling fractured, Dr. Erica Kennedy, a renowned orthopedic surgeon, finds herself at a crossroads in life. At 41, she's achieved remarkable success in her career, yet when it comes to her love life, she feels hopeless. But when she meets Christian Gamble, a passionate wildlife conservationist, an unexpected bond forms between them despite their contrasting worlds. A wildlife enthusiast ready for more, Chris has yet to find someone to share his adventures with, but as his friendship with Erica starts to blossom, he begins falling for her in every way. When tragedy strikes and Erica suddenly becomes guardian to her nieces, Chris helps her pick up the pieces. two hearts destined by nature, with their lives turned upside down, finding their way to a lasting love while putting their faith in God may be the biggest challenge they've ever faced. Where I Found You by Betsy St. Amant releases on the 4th of February and is published by Sunrise Publishing. Noah Herbert recently inherited the Blue Pirogue Inn, along with all its problems. He needs money to keep his beloved childhood home from being shut down by his family's long-time nemesis, Isaac Bergeron. So when Noah's lawyers approach him about an additional segment of his late grandfather's will, it's just in the nick of time. But even from beyond the grave, his grandfather is up to his usual games. In order to receive the last portion of inheritance, Noah must follow the clues, but there's one condition. Magnolia Blossom Cafe manager Elisa Bergeron is shocked to discover an acquaintance from the local puzzlers club left her something in his will, and even more surprised to discover they are clues to a portion of his estate. When she learns she must work with introverted inn owner Noah Herbert to solve the puzzle, she's torn. Growing up in the middle of a multi-generational feud between their families, she's been taught by her father Isaac that Herberts can't be trusted. When these two exes must work together to save their future, will love get a second chance, or will the long-standing family feud claim another generation? An Overdue Match by Sarah Monson releases on the 18th of February and is published by Bethany House. Can a librarian's matchmaking mischief lead to a love that rewrites their stories? If the covers of every romance book ever published didn't convince librarian Evangeline Kellie that she isn't heroine material, her fiancé calling off their wedding when she lost her hair to alopecia did. But what's a girl head over heels for love to do when her feelings are unrequited? Matchmake, that's what. Armed with library patrons' check-out histories, she's determined to make at least one love connection, even if it's not her own. Tattoo artist Ty Davis is used to people judging him with a single glance, so it doesn't surprise him when the town's quirky new librarian believes his bad boy reputation without giving him a chance. He can't help being intrigued by her, though, so when he discovers Evangeline's secret matchmaking scheme, he's not above striking a bargain with her. She just has to agree to one date with him for every time she uses his hometown knowledge to set up library patrons on a romantic rendezvous. The deal is made, but in the process they both might learn you can't judge a book or each other by the cover. Rescue on the Farm by Ali Pleiter releases on the 25th of February and is published by Love Inspired. They weren't looking for love, but these puppies will bring them together. Police officer Grant Emerson's temporary trip home is turning into a disaster. Instead of selling the family farm, his mum and aunts have opened an animal shelter and already rescued several puppies. When neighbouring single mother Meg Kittering offers to help, the matchmaking sisters are convinced she can cure Grant's grumpiness despite his protests. But behind Meg's sunny smiles are struggles Grant can relate to. They're both in need of love, but can they help each other to accept it? The Cowboys Easter Surprise by Jill Camara releases on the 25th of February and is published by Love Inspired. Can three little hearts bring two opposites together? As temporary guardian of his three nieces, stable manager Trent Lloyd is in desperate need of a babysitter. His only option, former classmate Gracie French, who's back in town and determined to prove she's a responsible, independent adult. The girls instantly adore Gracie, and after a fun-packed Easter weekend, Trent fears he's not the only one captivated by Gracie's charm, but he can't forget the wild child he knew in high school. If he can trust Gracie with his nieces, can he also learn to trust her with his heart? His Unexpected Baby Blessing by Julie Brookman releases on the 25th of February and is published by Love Inspired. For an abandoned baby, will he make room in his life for love? Luke Russell is content with his quiet, orderly life until the firefighter finds an abandoned baby at the fire station and his priorities change instantly. Keeping little Tommy safe and happy is all that matters, even if it means partnering with free-spirited foster mom Tessa Duncan. With 10 foster children, Tessa's house and life is anything but peaceful. Caring for a baby with his polar opposite isn't easy, but amid all the chaos, Luke's beginning to see from Tessa what his own life is missing: warmth, joy, and love. Keeping His Promise by Linda Goodnight releases on the 25th of February and is published by Love Inspired. To find their way forward, they'll need to face the past. After receiving an ominous letter, security specialist Brant James returns to the hometown he escaped and finds the girl he left behind. Ashamed of his past, Brant is determined to avoid her and focus on his investigation instead, but Barclay Metcalf never forgot the foster boy who stole her heart, or the promise ring he gave her. As old feelings reignite, the childhood sweethearts face painful memories and her wealthy family's disapproval, but Brant's keeping a secret from Barclay, and the truth could cost them their second chance. In contemporary fiction, Grandma Ruth Doesn't Go to Funerals by Sharon J. Mondragon releases on the 11th of February and is published by Craigle Publications. In a small town where gossip flows like sweet tea, bedridden Mary Ruth Macready reigns supreme, doling out wisdom and meddling in everyone's business with a fervour that would make a matchmaker blush. When her best friend Charlotte Harrington has her world rocked by a scandalous revelation from her dying husband, P.B., Mary Ruth kicks into high gear, commandeering the help of her favourite granddaughter, Sarah Elizabeth, in tracking down the truth. Finding clues in funeral condolence cards and decades-old gossip dredged up at the Blue Moon Beauty Emporium, the two stir up trouble faster than you can say pecan pie. And just when things are starting to look up, in waltzes Camilla Millie Holkrew, a blast from PB's past with a grown son and an outrageous claim to Charlotte's inheritance. But as Grandma Ruth always says, when things get tough, God is too big. With him, nothing is impossible, even bringing long-held secrets to light. Grandma Ruth and Sarah just might have to ruffle a whole mess of feathers to do it. In fantasy and sci-fi, so an author left a comment on one of my videos asking if I could mention his book that came out in January. And it's called A Hedge of Fire by Matthew Musgrave. The author said it is a retelling of Genesis 1-11 and Job. The author told me that he thinks it should be rated PG-16. This is because he said there's some heavier topics in there that are covered, including cruelty to other people and some violence, death, some heavy topics that include grief. He said in terms of language there's a couple of mentions of a character being damned, but that's all, and there is no sexual content in there. He also says it's like a heavy psychological thriller that occasionally veers into horror. It is a heavier book, but he did say there are some messages of hope and restoration and a redeemer in there as well. The description of the book is: banishment from a kingdom, titanic monster attacks, secret conspiracies and interstellar travel. Are these a part of normal childhood? Elikai wouldn't know, for he's never met anyone from an older generation, but when he and his family arrive on a new, mostly deserted planet, they meet a man named Rusum who has invaluable knowledge of the surrounding planets. Having just entered adulthood, will Elikai be able to begin a new peaceful life with his family on this planet, or will they encounter unidentifiable objects, superstitions, betrayals, and death? Pulling from the first 11 chapters of Genesis and every chapter of Job, this sci-fi fantasy novel delves into themes of friendship, doubt, and hope in a suspenseful, gut-wrenching, and unforgettable story. The Unravelling of Emlyn Dulain by Lindsay A. Franklin releases on the 4th of February and is published by Enclave Escape. This is book 1 in the Rivenly Sphere series. This is listed as Christian fiction, but also as wizards and witches fantasy, so I'm not sure what the content in this one will be like. A Shattered Heart, a Fate Foretold, the world undone by tales of old. Emlyn Dulain just wants to know what happened to her sister Camille 7 years ago on the fateful day she vanished, literally. Emlyn witnessed Camille unravel and disappear, but no one believes her. Since they think she's crazy, the least the cops could do is solve Camille's case. Is a little closure too much to ask? But Emmeline's life is upended when she is pulled through a portal into the fantasy land of her childhood imaginings, a magical library holding the story worlds of every story ever published, and trouble is brewing in the land of Rivendell. Rogue characters threaten their plot lines and broken classics are beginning to crumble, but Emmeline only wants to find Camille. As she searches for her sister, Emmeline begins to learn the reality of Rivendell and her own origins. A nefarious plot is afoot, and the line between fact and fiction is becoming hopelessly blurred. The truth threatens the story worlds, Rivendell, and Earth, the fabric of creation itself. Once a Castle by Sarah Arthur is not listed as Christian fiction, but the first book was a finalist for the Christie Awards, and it releases on the 11th February and is published by Waterbrook. This is book 2 in the series Carrick Hall, so here is the description to book 1. An American teenager discovers that her estranged English grandmother was once a queen in another world in the debut novel from best-selling author and speaker Sarah Arthur. When 14-year-old Eva Joyce unexpectedly finds herself spending the summer at the mysterious manor house of the English grandmother she's never met, troubling questions arise. Why the estrangement? What's with the house's employees and their guarded secrets? Why must Eva never mention trains, her father, or her favourite childhood fairy tales? After strange things start happening in the gardens at night, Eva turns to the elderly housekeeper, gardener, and the gardener's great-grandson, Frankie, for answers. Astonishingly, they all seem to believe the fairy tales are true, that portals to other worlds still exist, though hidden and steadily disappearing. They suspect that Eva's grandmother was once a queen in one of those worlds, but Eva's grandmother denies it all. After a horrific family tragedy when she was young, her heart is closed to the beauty and pain of her past. It's up to Eva, with Frankie's help, to discover what really happened, whether family relationships can be restored, and if portals are closed forever. As she unravels generational secrets, Eva wrestles with the grief of a vanishing childhood and the fear that growing up means giving up fairy tales forever. And finally, Truth Cursed by Angie Dickinson releases on the 18th of February and is published by Enclave Escape. This is listed as Christian fantasy, but also as swords and sorcery fantasy, so I'm not sure what the content will be like. Cressida Hoth is alone in the world. Orphaned and unwanted, she is inflicted with a peculiar curse by her mischievous aunts and banished to a finishing school in the secluded kingdom of Durnmont. Students train in every accomplishment suitable for young ladies: music, dancing, etiquette, and strangely poison-making, fencing, and lock-picking. The school is a front for her rebel spy ring, and when her training is complete, Cressida is selected to join a mission to infiltrate the kingdom's royal court. She has been thrown unceremoniously into a world of ball gowns and espionage, but she is still under a curse, and it threatens to expose them all. Defending her teammates and her secret, Cressida discovers that the kingdom's buried history and the truth behind her curse run far deeper than she imagined. Those are the books that I found that are releasing in February that are listed as Christian fiction or look like they could be. Let me know in the comments if you have found any more. Also, let me know which of those books sound like something that you would want to read in the future. I hope you are having a fantastic reading week. If you would like to watch any more videos about Christian fiction, you can watch these videos over here. In the meantime, I pray God bless you and your families. Have a great week. Bye.